Disclaimer: the information in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. This is not medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before starting any new supplement, peptide, or therapy. Today we're diving deep into JM2 peptides. JM2 is a fascinating and emerging peptide known for its potential role in modulating inflammation, regulating immune function, and possibly supporting neuroprotection. While it may not be as widely known as some of the big names in the peptide world, JM2 is gaining attention among researchers for its unique biological mechanisms. To understand JM2, it helps to start with what it actually is. JM2 is a synthetic peptide that was originally designed to mimic and modulate certain immune system pathways. Researchers believe it can interact with inflammatory signaling processes that influence autoimmune conditions, chronic inflammation, and even aspects of neuroinflammation. One of the primary areas of interest with JM2 is how it may influence the body's immune system. Inflammation is a powerful and necessary part of the immune response, but when it becomes chronic or dysregulated, it can contribute to many diseases. JM2 has been studied for its ability to reduce certain inflammatory markers without completely shutting down the immune system. This is important because many anti-inflammatory drugs suppress immunity, leaving people vulnerable to infections. JM2 appears to work differently by regulating rather than completely suppressing these pathways. Another intriguing aspect of JM2 is its potential neuroprotective effects. Chronic inflammation in the brain has been linked to conditions such as multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, and other neurodegenerative disorders. Research into JM2 has suggested it may help regulate some of the inflammatory cascades associated with these conditions, potentially supporting healthier neurological function. JM2 has also shown promise in modulating cytokine signaling. Cytokines are proteins that act like messengers between cells in the immune system. They can signal inflammation, help repair tissues, or trigger immune responses. But when cytokines are out of balance, they can create a storm of inflammation that damages tissues instead of protecting them. JM2 may help regulate this balance, which is why it's being explored in autoimmune and inflammatory research. When it comes to how JM2 works, scientists believe it interacts with specific receptors that influence immune system behavior. While the exact mechanisms are still being studied, early findings point to its ability to calm overactive inflammatory signaling without impairing the body's ability to respond appropriately to infection. This targeted action is what sets it apart from broad-spectrum immune suppressants. Another area where JM2 is being explored is its potential role in supporting people with autoimmune or chronic inflammatory conditions. While human clinical data is limited, preclinical models have suggested potential benefits in conditions involving overactive immune responses. Researchers are interested in whether JM2 could offer a new strategy to regulate inflammation without the harsh side effects that come with many conventional treatments. Neuroinflammation is one of the most talked about topics in health and longevity right now. Scientists are discovering more every year about how inflammation in the brain affects everything from mood and memory to cognition and long-term neurological health. JM2 may support the body's ability to regulate these inflammatory signals, offering a new way to approach neurological wellness in the future. In addition to inflammation and neuroprotection, JM2 is also being studied for its potential effects on mitochondrial function. Chronic inflammation can impair energy production in the body, and by calming certain inflammatory pathways, JM2 might indirectly support better cellular energy metabolism. While more research is needed, this is a promising area that could have implications for fatigue, performance, and overall cellular resilience. Because JM2 is still under research, it's not approved for medical use, and there are no standardized dosing protocols. Most of the information available comes from preclinical studies, animal models, or anecdotal reports from biohackers and wellness enthusiasts who are exploring its potential under professional supervision. Some people have reported that JM2 may help with energy regulation, inflammation-related fatigue, or brain fog. Others have mentioned improvements in recovery from inflammatory flare-ups. But it's important to remember that these are not clinical claims, and anyone considering peptides like JM2 should do so carefully, ideally under medical guidance. When discussing peptides, it's always essential to understand that they work by signaling. Peptides are not like pharmaceuticals that force the body to do something. Instead, they act as messengers, nudging biological systems in specific directions. JM2 appears to send calming signals to an overactive immune system, helping restore balance where inflammation has gone off the rails. Another aspect to consider is the potential combination of JM2 with other peptides. For example, some people in the wellness community explore stacking JM2 with peptides like thymosin alpha-1 or other immune modulators. The goal with these stacks is not to suppress the immune system, but to regulate and support a balanced response. However, because this kind of stacking is experimental, it should only be considered with expert supervision. There's also curiosity about whether JM2 could be used in longevity strategies. Since chronic inflammation is a hallmark of aging, sometimes called inflammaging, anything that can regulate inflammatory signaling in a safe and targeted way may have anti-aging potential. JM2 could play a role in supporting healthier aging through immune balance and cellular resilience, though this remains an area of ongoing research. Another important point is that inflammation isn't inherently bad. We need it to fight infection, heal wounds, and keep us safe. The problem comes when inflammation doesn't shut off. JM2 doesn't appear to blunt the immune response entirely. Instead, it seems to guide it toward a more balanced state. That subtle difference could be why researchers are interested in it for long-term health support. Because JM2 is still in the research stage, it's not something you'll find in mainstream medical settings. Most studies are happening in preclinical labs or through experimental wellness protocols. That also means sourcing and quality control are critical concerns. If someone is exploring JM2, it's vital to use reputable research suppliers and ensure the product is properly tested for purity and potency. There are also potential side effects to consider. Because JM2 works on the immune system, it could theoretically cause unwanted immune shifts. Some anecdotal reports mention temporary fatigue or flu-like symptoms as the immune system recalibrates. Others report no noticeable effects at all. As with many peptides, individual responses can vary widely. Another point of interest with JM2 is how it might interact with other pathways like oxidative stress and cellular signaling. Chronic inflammation and oxidative stress often go hand in hand. By reducing certain inflammatory signals, JM2 may indirectly reduce oxidative stress, helping cells function more efficiently. This could have broad implications for wellness, recovery, and overall vitality. Researchers are particularly intrigued by JM2's potential impact on microglia. Microglia are immune cells in the brain that can become overactive in certain neurological conditions. When they're inflamed, they can release damaging molecules that harm neurons. JM2 may help regulate microglial activation, reducing this inflammatory cascade and potentially supporting neurological health. There's still much to learn about JM2, including its long-term safety profile, optimal dosing ranges, and which populations might benefit most. Because it's still a research compound, there are more questions than answers right now. But the early signs point to a peptide with powerful regulatory potential for inflammation and immune balance. When it comes to application methods, JM2 is typically studied through subcutaneous or intranasal administration in research settings. Each route has its own potential advantages. Intranasal administration may help target neurological pathways more directly, while subcutaneous delivery may support systemic immune regulation. A growing number of wellness professionals are exploring JM2 in the context of immune system support, brain health, and longevity. But it's essential to emphasize again that this is still in the research phase. Any use outside of formal research should be done with careful monitoring and guidance. Another interesting question researchers are asking is whether JM2 could help modulate autoimmune flare-ups. In autoimmune conditions, the immune system mistakenly attacks the body's own tissues. By calming inflammatory signaling, JM2 might theoretically help reduce flare severity. This is an area of active investigation, but more controlled studies are needed before any firm conclusions can be made. Peptides like JM2 represent a new frontier in medicine and wellness. Instead of trying to overpower the body with drugs, peptides aim to communicate with the body in its own language. This elegant approach could lead to more targeted, effective, and safer therapies in the future. As with all experimental compounds, education and caution are essential. It's easy to get excited about the potential, but it's equally important to respect the fact that JM2 is still under investigation. Responsible use, medical oversight, and scientific literacy are key. One of the most exciting parts of peptide research is how interconnected everything is. By targeting one pathway, like inflammation, you can influence energy levels, mood, cognition, and even aging processes. JM2 may end up being part of a much bigger picture when it comes to whole body health optimization. For anyone curious about JM2, the best first step is learning. Understanding how it works, why it matters, and what the science currently says can help set realistic expectations. Peptides are not magic bullets. They're tools that can support the body when used correctly, carefully, and in context. Researchers will continue exploring JM2's effects on inflammation, immune modulation, and neurological protection in the coming years. As more data emerges, we'll have a clearer understanding of where it fits in the larger landscape of peptides. Disclaimer: this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not provide medical advice. JM2 is a research compound and not approved for medical use. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before using any peptide or supplement. Thanks for listening, keep learning, and stay curious.